Welcome to And That's When I Realized, the truth and comedy of midlife with me, Susan Dolci.
And me, Leone Dyer. We are two good friends navigating the twists and turns of that middle part of life, and we are laughing our way through it.
Don't get us wrong, it's not all that funny all the time. There's so much we are unprepared for. Adult children, changing bodies, aging parents. We want you to know that you are not alone in these challenges. So sit back, get a front row seat as we share true life stories with a fresh perspective and just a pinch of irreverence. And That's When I Realized starts now.
Okay. Hey everyone, welcome to And That's When I Realized. I'm Leone Dyer.
And I'm Susan Dolci.
And this show is where we tackle the truth and comedy of midlife. So Susan and I are best friends, and we get together every Friday afternoon, or most Fridays,
God willing,
through Zoom to share our week. We share the joys and the challenges, the laughs, and we discuss all those things that friends share. So we don't know about you, but we thought by the time we hit our mid-50s, we would kind of have life figured out. But it turns out there's a whole lot we didn't expect. And today's show is one of those. So in today's show, we're talking about the high price of comfort zones, how sometimes chaos brings us the greatest clarity and life lessons. So grab a cup of coffee, a glass of iced tea, and join us. Hey, Susan.
Hey, Leone.
You ready for today?
This one's been percolating for a while.
It's for like your mid-20s and my mid-30s.
Well, and this was in this particular topic. When we were discussing a whole bunch of show topics, Leone was like, "We have to talk about this one," and not just because we both have really telling sort of stories, but because it really was a transformational. They really were transformational moments in our lives.
Yeah, 100%. And not the easiest ones either. I mean, it wasn't for either. So today's show, and I'm talking, in my mid-30s was diagnosed with an aggressive cancer. And so I've always had that. I'm a cancer survivor. And and I'm like, okay, yeah, I did. I survived cancer. I also survived a whole lot of other things too. So I just, wearing, the pink ribbon, I get what it means. I know I have the socks that have the pink on them. And I've done the rallies, the walk of, what are those called? Where you walk for 3 days and
39 miles. Yeah.
Something. Yeah.
Yeah. I did that one too.
Right.
I didn't even know you when I was walking for
Well, you ask yourself, why am I doing this? I already suffered already. Why am I doing this? But no. But I wanted for October because it is breast cancer awareness. And I just wanted to, emphasize that sometimes life hands us these difficult situations and we need to walk through them, or, with grace and dignity and compassion for ourselves. And it's kind of how I took on my cancer. So that's why I wanted to do it today.
Yeah. So let's talk about why. I guess the question, if I were a listener, is why comfort zones can be so dangerous. Everybody, you hear the phrase all the time, life begins at the edge of your comfort zone and all of those things. But I think what we want to talk about is being comfortable in the very uncomfortable parts of our lives and avoiding discomfort.
Yeah. And so, so many times, and I think the common theme that's going to come out in our whole thing is, which we both write notes for the show. And I don't really read what Susan writes before, and she doesn't really know what I'm writing. but we both said in our notes, surrender.
Yeah.
Which I'm like, okay, yes, totally. So for me, in my mid-30s, I was living like everything was going perfect for me. I mean, we just built a new house. I had my like dream job. I was working in special ed in this great school. I had mom hours. My husband had a fantastic job, and we were back in the location that like I truly felt connected to. And so everything was great. And but there was something missing. Like there was this disconnect. There was just, and I don't know what it was. And I didn't feel, there was something missing in my life, and I didn't feel real, and I didn't feel whole, I guess is the best way to describe it. And I didn't even know how to articulate it. I didn't even know at that time, at the age of 37, that something didn't feel right.
Would you call it dis-ease?
Dis-ease. Oh, I like that. Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, like when you wear a wool sweater and you kind of itch and you just get used to it. And then when you take the wool sweater off, you're like, oh, holy, now I feel a whole lot better. Yeah. Okay. So it's kind of like that. So at the age of 37, it was one of those weird situations that I didn't fight what was happening. So I worked in special ed, and we did adaptive skiing, which is you go skiing and you have adaptive equipment. So it's not as fast, or well, it can be fast, but it's not as slick and smooth as just skiing. You put on tethers, or you're tethering a student or the other skier, or so there's a lot of downtime, and there's a lot of taking your gloves off and fixing ratchets and hooks and all that. This particular morning, I know the exact time and date, or date and time, I guess would be so it was March 6th, and it was like 5:45, so 5:45, and it was below zero. So I called Kathy, the person that I was with, the teacher that I was with at the time. And I'm like, we're not going skiing, right? She's like, oh no, we have to. It's the last day. We have to go. The kids want to go. It's below zero and the wind is blowing. No, we're going. It will be fine. We'll go ski. We'll sit in the lodge. We'll go ski, sit in the lodge. And I love winter sports. I love winter. I don't love being cold. So, so I was kind of mad. I was like, okay, fine. All right, we're going skiing. So I got in the shower, but just prior to walking into the shower, our local news, and this was a time in my life where we would get up, start getting ready, and would flip the news on, like to watch it.
Yeah, same.
And yeah. And our local news on the first Tuesday of every month had, and I forget the name of it, but it was like a reminder for women to do the self breast check, but they had a catchy little phrase. So that came on just prior to me stepping into the shower. So I'm in the shower and I'm kind of like, oh, that I have to go stand in the cold, and it's going to be really cold, and I'm going to have to take my gloves off, and I'm going to have to, and I was not happy. And so I'm standing in the shower knowing this is the warmest I will be probably all day. So I'm like, okay, I'm not just going to stand here, like I can just, what am I? So I decided, okay, let's do this. So I did a self breast check. First one ever. I'm under 40. No one ever told me I had to.
Hey, question. Did you have a baseline mammogram at that point?
No.
Okay. Yeah.
No.
All right.
No, there was no cancer in my family at that time. Like, oddly enough, of everything that my mom has had, that wasn't one of the issues that, like I wasn't one of the high cases where you need to get it prior to 40, but I found a lump. I found this, well, it wasn't even a lump. It was this tiny little, like, yeah, something's not right there. So, which then, I'll fast everything up, but, a week later I met with my doctor, and she's like, you know what, I'm going to trust you on this. I don't quite feel it, but I'm going to trust you that So I went from a mammogram, and nothing came up. So now we're into like week 3. I had an ultrasound, and then like all the bells and whistles went off, and they're like, woo, here we, they found something. And then but it took a little bit, like it just to go. So,
Can I interrupt you for a second?
mm,
Because I think this is, so did you advocate for the ultrasound?
no, my doctor did.
Okay.
I have to say, thank goodness I had a doctor that I trusted, and that she trusted me to know my body. And I kept saying, yeah, I'm just not sure, something's not right. Something is not right. I had no pain. I just had that feeling, which I'm just going to say, like, we constantly, like, or we constantly receive messages all the time. For whatever reason, this time I was awake. Like, I heard it. Like, I knew when standing in that shower that I knew. I just like, okay, on March 6th, probably at like 6 a.m, I knew at the age of 37, okay, here we go. This is what it is. And I knew as we kind of went through it takes a while. Like you're diagnosed, or it just takes a while. You're not just diagnosed or I wasn't in a week. I had to have a biopsy, and then you have to, it took time. But by the beginning of May, I was going in to have, I can't even remember oh my gosh, this is so bad.
No, it's probably good. It means that you
yeah. Anyways, I was going in, they were going to give me a lumpectomy. And because it was just this little spot, like little spots, just little things. And then they went in, they were like, holy cow. And I had a radical mastectomy, that's the word I couldn't remember, which goes completely to your chest wall. So I woke up thinking I was going to just have a tiny section of my breast removed. And I woke up and everything, including the muscle, was gone. So, and then, but I knew, like, even then, like, I'm like, okay, this is really happening. I knew though, no matter what happened, whether I was going to be okay. And I had to go through this. It wasn't about the cancer. And even when I sat around and all the doctors, like from Dana-Farber, were saying, okay, we have to do this and we're going to do that, because it was a cancer they weren't familiar with, or they didn't know how to treat at that point. And I was just like, yeah, okay, it doesn't matter, guys, doesn't matter. But it did, it did, because, and so I knew in my heart, regardless of what happened, whether I lived or not, I had to go through this, and the outcome, I was going to be okay. Like, I had to go through it. Does that?
Yeah. No, I totally get it. I want to get more, we're coming up on a break, and I really want to kind of get more into the psychology of that.
Mm-hmm.
That's the word I want, of knowing that, like in your gut, that this is part of your journey.
Mm-hmm.
Because then gets to all the other good stuff that we want to talk about at the end.
Right. Yeah.
So we're going to take a quick break. You're listening to And That's When I Realized, and we will be right back. Hey everybody, welcome back. You're listening to And That's When I Realized. I'm Susan Dolci. I'm here with my partner, my friend, partner friend. Could be misconstrued.
Phil.
Leone Dyer. And today we are talking about the consequences of comfort zones.
Mm-hmm.
And not that we, like I said in the first segment, we all know the phrase that we should get outside of our comfort zone, or life begins on the edge of your comfort zone and all that. But I think what happens a lot of times is we get really comfortable in our discomfort, and we're not really sure, like Leone was saying earlier, like you just didn't feel like everything was aligned in your life. So you had the job, you had the house, you had the marriage, you had kids, everything was going great, but something wasn't aligning for you. And then you got your cancer diagnosis. So what I'm curious about is, was there ever a time which when you said to yourself, this is not like I deserve this, because that's not what I mean, but like this was the sign, or this needed to happen for me to get my head out of my butt or something to
Well,
that
yeah,
effect.
I didn't quite say it that way, but I knew that it was my reset button. I knew I had to go through it. And even during the process of going through it, I didn't know why I had to go through it. I just knew, like, here we go. And I want to emphasize though, I mean, there were moments that I was scared. I was incredibly sick. And there were times that I was questioning what, like, okay, okay, uncle, I call uncle, I don't want to do this anymore. I just want to go home. And I would beg my husband not to take me back to chemo. And I was horrible. I would tell him, okay, if you take me back, I'm going to divorce you. And he's like, okay, you can, because that's how much I love you. So it wasn't all, like, oh, yay, it's unicorns and rainbows. And this is, I'm giving in and here we go. I didn't jump in fully happy, but I did know throughout the process that I had to go through it. Yes, I had to go through it, to go through the chemo and go through all the operations and go through all the surgeries, to be here and to be a mom and to live with my husband and have this amazing life. But it was also, I knew that it was more spiritual for me. And that's where the reset happened. And it did. I mean, but I knew that's what it was. It wasn't like I look back and like, oh, I'm so grateful that I lived. I'm going to spend my life happy and be grateful for everything. It was, I knew it was happening. And yeah.
So would you go so far as to say, I'm going out on a limb,
Yeah, no, go.
that your maybe your struggle with unworthiness and any, all the other stuff that we struggle with as humans, would you say any of that, like the psychological part of it, that maybe influenced the physical part of it? Because I put some quotes in here from Bruce Lipton, because it's very clear that our cellular biology is very much impacted by environment and thoughts. And I know way in the back, way back machine, we talked about the cloud of possibility, where things don't actually even exist until they are viewed by humans. So now I'm going way off in my quantum thing. So reel it back, Susan. But the point being that, do you think that there were that thought processes or limiting beliefs that you had might have helped foster this in your body?
Oh, 100%. Oh, yes. I'm a total, I 100% believe that. I'm not going to say all, I'm not going, but I believe that a lot of our illnesses are from the negative energy that's like trapped in our body. And I had a lot of negative energy and I had a lot of processing to do. And so, yes, 100%. And that's where it grew and manifests. I think Louise Hayes has a fantastic book, and I actually have it. Maybe at our next break I'll find it. But and I've never looked to see what the negative qualities were, or negative energy related to breast cancer. So
I've heard about that book. I don't have it, and I've never looked at it, but I know which book you're talking about. So to see what comes.
But yes, 100. And I didn't even, like, I knew, like, I wasn't, when I lived in the Midwest, I wasn't happy, really, even though, I mean, I was happy, but I felt disconnected to my mountains and here, like in the Northeast. So I knew I wasn't happy then, but I didn't realize that there was still this like trail of, just stuff that I was carrying. And it was all emotional. Like I didn't have physical stuff I was carrying. It was all emotional, of not feeling worthy, of not feeling adequate from a very young age. So yeah. And so for me, my cancer diagnosis was kind of like, that closet. Well, you might not, Susan, but I know the other listeners will have this closet in their house where you shove everything. And
I think I don't have a closet like that.
I know you don't have that closet.
You know where it goes? It goes under the guest room bed. So
Okay.
don't look under my guest room bed.
Okay. Well, I have like a whole room, but, so it was like, you don't even know what's in there. And then you open the door and you're like, wow, wow. And so that was kind of what happened for me. Like it was kind of someone, and I'm going to say, I'm going out there to say, whatever it was God, the universe, my guides, my angels, I don't know, but someone like had to really like knock on my door and say, open this door. And the only way that could happen for me to completely like step back and give an entire year of my life where I just had to be, was for me to go through the cancer.
That's the thing that I find fascinating is that, so you had a choice in that moment. I have this story that I will share, how my choice moment too, but it was that sort of like down on your knees sort of moment. And you could choose to see this as an opportunity, a reset, as you like to call it, or you could have been a victim. And you could have languished in your victimhood and not seen this as, dare I say, the gift that it was. Another friend of mine had a similar sort of situation, not as drastic as yours. She was just a lumpectomy, but that was a huge eye opener for her. She was like, she just realized how much of her life she had been taking for granted, and that she was very, things were so easy for her. And I mean, struggle, spiritual struggle, I think, is necessary for us to grow, to grow as humans, to grow as souls.
And I want to just emphasize, we all have these moments in life, and some are huge and some are small. Like losing a job could be that moment where it cracks you. And I think, and that's the thing. I mean, it kind of like, I think if you have a situation where it kind of like, it leaves a bruise, okay, you just keep going. But when it cracks you like emotionally, not, I mean, maybe physically, but I mean, it's the emotional crack where like, okay, here we go, and you just kind of, that surrender to, what is it that I need to move through? What is it that I need to process? So we all go through this, and it's how we choose to take on that challenge. And I did. I mean, there were moments that I felt like a victim. There were moments that, I cried. There were moments that I was like rethinking, like, I don't think I want to do this anymore, and so, yeah, I did play, there was a little bit of victimhood in there, but I did know this was for my betterment and not physically.
Did you ever feel like you had some signs before that were like, like the bruise? Like, and
right. Well, when I look back, okay, so I had cancer at 37. And then after that, like, I was like, okay. And I started like really going through a lot, like trying to get my, like, find me. And it took like 10 years really to like, cause my closet was kind of full. There was a lot to weed through. So it took a good 10 years. But, so now, but looking back, there were many things in my life that I'm like, oh, and I just kind of fell into that, and I ignored it, or I play victim, or, just little situations that they think, okay, maybe this will crack her. Okay, well, maybe this will be it. And, I was kind of one of those, I'm a slow learner anyways. So yeah.
Or
But
stubborn.
stubborn, think I know it all. Yeah. So it really had to, it was a major thing, like that had to happen for me. I know people who've gone through, well, and which we're going to talk about when we come back from break, you, Susan, but I know people who have gone through a divorce, and that just shattered them physically and emotionally. And then that allowed them to like kind of, and I call it the reset. Like, what are we really here for? And it's like we get on these journeys or these roads where we're like, yeah, this isn't what we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when we come back, we're going to talk, I think, a lot more about the role of surrender. And because like the title is From Chaos to Clarity.
Mhm.
And obviously surrender has a role in that, but it's a process. Surrender isn't a process, but we'll talk about that. We're going to take another break. You're listening to And That's When I Realized, and we will be right back. Hey, everybody. Welcome back. I'm Susan Dolci. You're listening to And That's When I Realized. We are here every second and fourth Thursday at 1 Pacific, 4 Eastern. I'm here with my buddy, Leone Dyer. We're talking about the when discomfort zones get too comfortable, or when comfort zones get too comfortable, and the moving from chaos to clarity. So Leone, in the beginning, first half of the show, which was talking about her cancer story, which is a really, really profound story, because you all along said that you were not going to give up, that you knew you were going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the reasons this topic is kind of near and dear to our hearts is because we were just talking about how you get in those moments, those down on your knee moments that sort of transform the rest of your life. Yeah. And so for me, that was my divorce. I got married way too young. I was barely 21, to a guy that I had kind of only known for like a year. He was the only guy that my dad liked. That should have been a telltale sign. Right there. Only guy that I ever dated that my dad liked. And I was happy. He was in the Marine Corps. We kind of had a long distance thing going for a while because he was an officer candidate school. And so part of the reason we rushed to get married was because he was going to go to flight school. And so I just didn't want to do this long distance thing anymore. And when you're an officer, you can't cohabitate.
Okay.
So we got married, went to Pensacola for his flight training. And that was the first time we had ever really lived together, like really spent any like consequential amount of time together. And that was when I found out that he had some anger issues. And I just, I was of that sort of that unworthy thing. Like at some point I'm going to do I'll do it right. I'll be the good wife. And then he won't be angry anymore. And, it must be me. It's something I'm doing wrong. So that went on. There was a lot of emotional abuse. There was a lot of verbal abuse. As we progressed to like 5 years, I had gotten to the point where I thought I couldn't do anything. I thought I was stupid. I thought I was incompetent, because I've been told this over and over and over again, that I could not take care of myself. And the only way I was going to survive was that he had to take care of me. And I believed him. And I was in therapy.
And you weren't near your family, right?
I was not. I was in California, and my family was in Illinois.
Yeah.
And so at least I had the wherewithal to put myself through therapy. And there was a moment when the therapist said to me, He said, you need to get out of this marriage or he's going to kill you. And I was indignant. I was like, who the hell are you to tell me about my marriage? Because I'm in therapy for me. Like, this doesn't have anything to do with my marriage. And I thought he crossed a line. And I felt like, I was like, well, in my head, I was like, that's the last time I'm going to see you, because none of this has to do with my marriage. I'm the problem.
Oh, so you
So,
thought the reason, okay, so you were going not because you were unhappy in your marriage, you were going because you didn't feel adequate.
right. Because
Okay.
I needed to fix something about myself.
So he
Because,
would love you and
right,
think, okay.
right. So things had just escalated to a really, really low point. And I was terrified of leaving. But I also knew in my heart that I couldn't keep going like this. And so one day he was on deployment. I don't know how long he'd been gone. I don't even remember where I was coming back from. I just remember I was in my truck. I call it my Jesus take the wheel moment. And I just said out loud in the car, I said, God, I clearly have no control over my life. I clearly have no idea what I'm doing. My whole body was in fear and anxiety 24/7. That's why I was also going to the therapist, was because I was having panic attacks. So I just said, I can't do this. I can't live like this anymore. And I don't know what it looks like, but I'm done and you're in charge. And it was this moment of peace and calm. And I just was like, I don't know what tomorrow's going to look like, but I'm going to get up, and God, you're going to point me in the right direction and you're going to guide me on what to do. And I'm just going to trust that you're going to get me out of this. And I'll say a lot to people, like, if you've never been in that moment where you completely surrender and you're going to be caught, or that things are going to turn out okay, you don't take that step, because that is like jumping off a cliff.
Yeah.
And believing there's going to be a safety net when you don't see anything at the bottom. And so I did. So I packed up. I left while he was on deployment. I didn't leave the California area. I stayed there for a while, working for a newspaper, and but it was this slow, progressive, like every day, one step closer to getting back to my family in Chicago, and getting to a place where I could truly reset my body, reset my nervous system, and start over. And that's why when we were talking about surrender versus being a victim, I could have totally stayed in that victim place. Could have so totally stayed in that victim place, that you did this to me, and I can look back now in retrospect. I know that I was complicit in a lot of the problems. I know I wasn't perfect, but I also know I didn't deserve the kind of verbal and emotional abuse I was getting. Like, that was on him. But so that moment of clarity was just like literally like stepping into a pool of warm water.
Yeah.
And it was like, because I don't have to fight anymore. It's like you take the gloves off and you're like, whatever's going to happen is going to happen. And then the clarity part is the part that's the process.
Yes.
That's the part that took years and years. And I can honestly say, like, by the time I was 30, so all that, when I actually got back to Chicago, I was 26. By the time I was 29, so it took a good 3-4 years for me to like let all of those limiting beliefs and all of the fears and the anxieties and all of that stuff, that not just from him, but just growing up, just the stuff that we get from our families, even though they love us, to get all of that rubble off.
Yeah.
So what I find fascinating about that is that, like, when I tell people that every day after that, literally, like, I went back to Chicago. I didn't have a job. I was a Kelly temp. If anybody remembers what Kelly temps are,
Yes.
Every day I might go to a different place.
Yep.
And I just was like, trusted that every day it was like, okay, this is what I'm doing today. Okay, what's in store tomorrow, God? And that level of surrender, just I mean, everything started falling into place. I
Mhm.
mean, I got put at a great temp position long term at Kraft. Then they wanted to hire me as a consultant to do this huge project. And then that's where I met my husband. And like everything just sort of landed like snowflakes, like just
Yeah.
and all started to make sense. But I don't know if I would have been in that spot if it weren't for that ability to just continue to surrender every day. And when those times when I feel like I need to control everything, like I'm like, oh, like I don't like this situation. This isn't how I
Yeah.
want my life to go. I want to be able to control this and make it different. Then everything starts to fall apart again.
Yeah. Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
How, yeah, when we think we have control, or when we think we have to have control, it clearly gives us a sign. Yeah, not really.
But see, that's the thing now. Like I don't have to take a whole lot of hits over the head
Right.
to
Yes.
know that I need a reset or that my
Right.
thinking is foggy and I am not aligned with my soul and aligned with my purpose.
Yep.
Where before it took, the bash on the head and knock you out to like make you reconsider, what your choices in life.
Yeah. 100%. Like I'm now very in tune to listening to whatever messages or whatever, like, yeah, I'm going to call them messages that
Mhm.
are like happening, like what I need to go through. I'm open to it. Yeah. No more massive cracks for me. I'm done cracking. Yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, surrender for me, the surrender, and it's interesting when I watch or I have clients or I see other people or even my own family members. Um, I'm like, okay, just let go, just let go. And they can't, like, when they can't do it, um, it's like, but maybe it's not there, then it's not their time. It's not, I don't know. I don't know if it's a timing thing or if it's a trust. Like you had to trust that it was going to be okay to leave California.
I just couldn't. I didn't have the emotional, spiritual, or physical strength to hang on anymore. But I didn't want to die. I just couldn't fight the situation anymore. And so I knew I kind of needed to fight to get out, but I just couldn't be that person continually trying to fix myself for somebody that I finally realized was never going to love me, at least the way I wanted or needed to be loved. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and I think when you are 100, I think when anyone, I mean, so if you're listening and you're like, wait a minute, I've had a really crappy situation, or, I, I think when we're ready, like surrender comes. I mean, it comes, and it may not be pretty and it might not, but I think you fall into that. And you said it beautifully, Susan. It's just this like calm. It's almost like, did you say it was like
So it was like
water?
stepping into a pool of warm
Yeah.
water. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was hard. You probably still cried. You probably questioned yourself. You probably the whole way home tucked your tail between your legs and like, okay, mom and dad, here I am. I'm back.
Oh yeah,
I
that was
mean,
humiliating.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, so it surrendering doesn't have to be pretty.
Oh no,
It has, yeah.
no. Yeah, we're up on one more break. When we come back, because I want to continue that discussion, but how it's trust and surrender, which we did sort of
Yes.
talk about.
Yeah.
And the surrender part is easy. And we've got a quote here that I want to share too. But the trust thing is a daily process. Yeah. You're listening to, and that's when I realized. We're going to take a quick break and then we'll be right back. We are back. You're listening to, and that's when I realized. I'm Susan Dolci. I'm here with my cohort in crime, Leone Dyer. And today we've been talking about getting like the cost of staying in our comfort zones and the cost of The price we pay, not just physically and emotionally, from not confronting our limiting beliefs and all of the rubble and BS that we've attached to our bodies and our souls. And so before the break, I was talking about surrender, because like I said, surrender is easy. And there's some studies on that. I'm going to quote somebody here, Nancy Collier, but surrender is the easy part. It's because it's that one moment of letting go. And I mean, I think about it, not to get all morbid and stuff, but I mean, if we think about when people are crossing over, and they will fight it and fight it and fight because it's the unknown. They are afraid to let go of their physical bodies because they just don't know what to expect, which is completely understandable, right? And then there's that moment of surrender and that peace that usually, I mean, for most people, comes over them. And they're just like, why did I fight this? Mm-hmm. It's so much easier. And so this quote, I love this. It says, surrender happens when we know that we don't know. It arrives when we know that we cannot think or see our way through where we are. We don't have the answers. In true surrender, we don't know if what's to come will be better or worse, more comfortable or more awful. All we know is that we can't do it this way, the way we've been doing it, a moment longer. Surrender happens when it cannot not happen. Mm. And I mean, that's exactly how I felt. I was like, because staying here is going to be so much worse than whatever else is on the other side of my fear. So, but once the surrender happens, which was said is the easy part, now you have to do the trust part. And that's not easy.
No,
that's not easy. That's not easy, period. In like relationships, in life, and in parent-child relationships, work relationships, trust is hard. And I mean, for me, I was putting my trust in a higher power and myself, that I believed that God was going to direct my life and bring the right people into my life and the right things into my life to change my direction. Because I was like, I can't do this. I don't know what I'm doing. So I'm turning this over to you. And like I said, every single day after that was just a gratitude moment over and over and over again for all of the blessings that I felt like I was being given or was given. So, but how do you practice trust every day if that's hard for you?
You're asking me?
I'm asking you.
You're asking the people that are listening in their car.
So like, I mean, I can say that I think gratitude helps, but still very different from trust.
For me, trust, I think there's, okay, honest, I totally trust that right now, because I feel aligned with myself, that I am on the journey I'm supposed to be on. So I have that trust. There are moments where things happen. And I don't want to keep using the same words. I'm going to change words here, but they mean the same thing. There is giving, what's the other word would be for surrender? It is allowing it to happen, to step back, to not to control the situation, not to control what is happening, not to control and also to have judgment over it.
I think people need to believe that they are loved unconditionally by a higher power. And that higher power, and that, like I will say it over and over again, I believe we're all here. This is Soul School. Welcome to Soul School, Earth 101. And that I'm here to learn lessons. And if it's just like, it's like if you don't do your homework, like if you're fighting the professor or you're fighting the teacher and you're like, I don't like this class. I mean, the more you fight, the harder it's going to be, right? To learn the lesson.
Yeah.
So, but to know that I am worthy and I am loved
Mhm.
by a power, unfathomable amount of love, then I know that ultimately I'm going to be okay.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I've always like, it's kind of like my mission statement or motto in life is to be of service, to be respectful, and to be true to yourself. And I was not true to myself. And that was my reset, is to find me. I had to find what was happening. And so I think whenever you're true to yourself, whatever that is, whatever that means to you, and whatever and you are respecting yourself and everyone around you, then you do feel that love, and you do feel that higher power seep through.
Yeah. I mean, for me, like I was totally running away. Like the reason I got married as young as I did, I was tired of my life. I just wanted to run away. And so I ran away with him, not really knowing I was getting into, thought I was making all sorts of right decisions. You know, at the time I was like, I mean, I knew I was too young, but I mean, I still ended up finishing college and getting my degree. And but yeah, for me, in retrospect, I can say I was running away from my being like my true purpose and myself. And yeah, because it was too hard to face.
Yeah. I mean, and he was tapping into all your insecurities.
Exactly.
That was,
You talk about a mirror. Like he was the best mirror I've ever had. Like I will say he was a soulmate in some regards, because he really was a mirror for me. So
well,
we have 2 minutes left, and we have a sticky note.
I do want to, before we end our show, I just want to really emphasize, women, please, October, go do yourself breast check. And if you are in a domestic situation that you don't feel comfortable with, reach out. There's lots of people.
Absolutely.
So life did not give us a handbook. So Susan and I are giving you one sticky note at a time, little things to live for. So when we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. And that is Viktor Frankl.
Okay. Viktor Frankl.
That's our little tidbit for today.
Yes. And also get your mammograms. Next month is Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
Yes.
I know where I live, there's mobile breast cancer mammogram places. So please do that. I have to do it myself. So I'm putting myself, y'all out there listening are my accountability partners.
I will call you, Susan.
Mammogram.
Yeah.
This has been fun, even though it's been a heavy topic. But so thanks for listening, everybody. Remember, age is just the number of years the world has been enjoying you. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for being here with us today on And That's When I Realized. We are here to shed some light on the misconceptions around midlife by sharing real life stories and a fresh perspective.
Look, we know it's not easy, but change is constant and inevitable. Let's explore what it means to move through challenges with a dose of humor and embrace each challenge, each new discovery with a higher sense of understanding. We hope you heard something today that made you laugh and recognize the truth and comedy of midlife. See you next time.